Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us this evening for this program, our final in the series of Music at Emmanuel. And I'm thrilled to be joined now by Doug Williams, our amazing artist from this evening. You'll notice that it's quite bright outside, so because Doug is currently in Berlin, in Germany, we are pre-recording this. So this is not a live question and answer, unfortunately. So you can welcome to put comments as you wish in the chat, but we won't be able to answer questions in the chat right now. But it is 1 or 2 a.m. in Berlin right now, and Doug, I'm sure, is fast asleep as we're viewing this. But for now, I'm just thrilled to be able to say, hey, Doug, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. So Doug happened to be in the States back in May, and I coaxed him down to Baltimore to share his artistry with us, and we're so thrilled that you were able to take part. So thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for the invitation. I'm glad it worked out so perfectly, actually.
Yeah, timing ended up working well because he had to fly back to Europe to do a few more gigs in France right afterwards. So, but Doug, you are now fully vaccinated. How does that feel?
Oh, I'm really, really grateful I was able to get it done while I was visiting the US and back here in Europe. It's feeling everything's opening up. It's beautiful summer weather, and yeah, it feels like things are on the right track.
Yeah, it's been a little bit shocking for me just the past few weeks how fast like everything is like reverted back to normal. I don't know if it's the same
Yes,
sensation over there or not.
for sure. And all of a sudden, I mean, both in Europe and the US, performances are happening all of a sudden. I was in front of a live audience for the first time since the pandemic began just a couple of weeks ago in France. So, and I see a lot of things happening with friends, colleagues in the US. So it's just certainly like super promising for the arts. There's a feeling of happening now.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Doug, I wonder if you might just speak a little bit about how you came to the program that we recorded and a beautiful eclectic mix of stuff. And I wonder if you might just talk about what that repertoire means to you.
Sure. Well, I thought of starting with some Mendelssohn spring songs, although we're into summer now. But I just overall with the program, I thought of music that's fun to listen to, charming music. That was sort of the idea. So we start with 3 Mendelssohn songs. And actually, I've done those songs here at the Mendelssohn House here in Berlin. There's an organization that's dedicated to him here in Berlin, and yeah, they're about different aspects of the return of spring. So the idea of return is in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought of some songs that nobody knows. These 5 epitaphs by Pierre Vallon. And these are quirky little, I thought for a miniature program, these are miniature songs.
Yeah,
So that would be
absolutely.
perfect. And they're kind of cute and quirky and charming and a bit touching at times. They're a collection of epitaphs, ancient epitaphs. So they're kind of light in the kind of in the style of Poulenc. Vallon was a contemporary of Poulenc. So very accessible, fun songs. And then I thought of a fun Mozart aria, the catalog aria from Don Giovanni, Leporello's aria from Act 1 of Don Giovanni, where he's recounting all of the Don's deeds with women all across the European continent. And so that's a very fun aria to perform.
Absolutely.
And then we end with some American songs, American songbook material. which is stuff that I love to sing. Don't often get to sing it, but those are also super charming, beautiful songs, clever lyrics. There's something very immediate about that repertoire. And although I've picked also some songs that I don't think people will know, but they're in that style. And I love, I really think there's something analogous to Leader with these American Songbook songs. They're all very crafted and formulaic in a way. So it's a special genre, and was happy to pull those off the shelf and do them with you.
No, it was such a pleasure to be able to make music with you finally. Like, Doug and I have kind of crossed paths for a long time now, but have never gotten to work together in any real way. And so
true.
So it was real joy for me, at least. Have you played the part in Don Giovanni before?
No, actually, I played the part of the Don.
Oh, okay.
But I think Leporello is the real star of that show and gets to have way more fun. Well, actually, the Don has plenty of fun too, but it's a much darker psychological story. Leporello gets to constantly talk to the audience, and it's a role that I would love to do, actually. I think I would have a lot of fun with it.
Mm-hmm. Now, for those of you who don't know, Doug is an exceptionally versatile singer and has starred in Baroque operas and has done lots of contemporary music and everything in between, including, of course, this American Songbook stuff that he does so well. How do you navigate that breadth of repertoire? Because so many people end up kind of either through preference or through what they end up being hired for, ending up in one of those kind of niches for most of their career.
Well, I think it's what keeps it very interesting to me. I wouldn't be satisfied, I think, with just one genre, one time period of music. I like to be challenged musically, dramatically. So variety is I think what it's all about for me. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like playing different instruments, or just like language allows for different colors. Getting to do a broad repertoire, one informs the other. And you get to speak. I love history also, so there's a feeling like doing different genres, different eras of music. You inhabit some kind of mentality of that era, and which I find kind of fascinating also.
Yeah, absolutely.
How they organize music obviously reflects what was going on culturally at that time. So that's another aspect of the variety. But I like keeping it varied, for sure.
Yeah. Doug recently participated in a Baroque opera in Toronto that was filmed and presented for an opera house there. I wonder if you might talk about that process, not only doing it during COVID, but also kind of how the process as a performer is obviously very different for you, filming and all this type of stuff.
Yeah, that was the first time I'd done like an intensive filmed project. So it wasn't just filming a live performance, but we really created something for film. We just had a 2-day shoot. But the piece is La Resurrezione of Handel. Mm-hmm. And this is an oratorio where good and evil are fighting over the soul of Jesus after his crucifixion. And so it's high Baroque spiritual rhetoric. And I probably had the most interesting character as Lucifer, actually.
Yeah.
So because of Corona restrictions in Ontario, we had to actually record the music first with orchestra, and then create a staging and practice to what we had recorded, because we were not allowed to sing in a room, sing to each other. Mm-hmm. So that was obviously different, like kind of learning or attempting to lip sync convincingly. But what I really enjoyed about it was that when it came to time to film the opera, that we did multiple takes of everything. Mm-hmm. And because the singing was already in the can, you didn't have to worry about that. And then you could just play with your body language, play with your visual expression. And every take, it felt like you could just give something new. And ultimately, it's up to the editor, to the director, which take they want to use. But I felt very, actually very creative, a kind of new kind of creativity in that process. A kind of freedom to not have to worry about singing, and then just play and as a visual actor, and see what you could come up with, as long as they were doing another take.
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember seeing you perform live in Boston, like in opera roles, and you're a very physical performer already when you have to be singing. So, I mean, I was always struck by how you and many of your colleagues who have to do opera where you're dancing and running around and all this type of stuff, and having to sing properly at the same time. It's just remarkable to me.
Yes. Yeah, actually, that's a good point about this thing in Toronto. If I had to do all of that action and sing at the same time, possibly might not have worked.
Might not have worked.
Cardiovascularly.
Yeah. One of the things that's happening, changing subjects, one of the things that's happening in Baltimore right now is that the Baltimore Symphony is saying kind of adieu to Marin Alsop, the music director there for 14 years. Yes. And there's a lot of press, understandably so, about her departure, because when she came in as music director of the Baltimore Symphony, she was at that time the first woman to be appointed music director of a major American orchestra. Mm-hmm. And she is now leaving still as only the one woman music director of a major American orchestra. And now we are reverting back, and there's a lot of press and documentary that was premiered last night about that. I know that you work with Barbara Hannigan a lot, and who is just a fantastic performer / conductor. And I wonder if you might talk about kind of the experience of working with different conductors, and particularly with Barbara, and what that experience is like for you.
Well, certainly an interesting aspect of this job, going from place to place, to orchestra, is quickly figuring out how to navigate personalities. And of course, you have to work together, and really work together intimately on music and expression. So you arrive somewhere and you quickly have to kind of sniff out, like, how does this person work? How do I fit into what they're asking for? Of course, I arrived with my own ideas, and that can be a really sometimes complicated dance of personalities and power dynamics. But really the best kind of conductors are those who are able to simultaneously bring a very strong vision and confidence and kind of relaxed authority. They're very self-confident people, but at the same time, they allow space for you to breathe, for you to do your own thing, and that's a obviously like a tricky balance. But ultimately, it's someone who understands people, actually, because you have 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 people on stage. You need to work together. And actually, that is something Barbara and a few other great conductors I've worked with, they really understand that. They understand how to get people on board so that you feel empowered on your own, and at the same time, you are motivated to work to the experience of collaborating with such a large group of people. So it's really someone, I think, who of course has great musicianship, but also understands how to deal with people. That's really the key, actually. I mean, you could be I think there are plenty of very authoritative maestros who will turn off an orchestra at the first rehearsal, actually, and then it's not enjoyable. It's a bad way to achieve what you want. So it's a very special balance of skills that have to do with personal energy and unspoken dynamics. But Barbara certainly has that. It's a meeting of musicianship and leadership and compassion. A whole alchemy of things goes into a great conductor.
And Barbara is a fantastic singer, right? So she often sings and conducts at the same time. And I know that your next project is essentially to do just that. So I wonder if you might just talk a little bit about what's coming up for you.
Yeah, I'm doing this piece July 1st and 2nd at the Ludwigsburg Schlossfestspiele, festival in southern Germany near Stuttgart at a big Baroque castle. And I'm going to do a piece by a friend of mine, Matt Barneson, who we went to Yale.
Yes, I remember Matt very well.
Yeah, and actually, I was talking with Barbara yesterday because she often about this piece because she can sing and conduct at the same time. I mean, she does it. I just saw her do that in Paris a few weeks ago with some Kurt Weill arias. And although this piece is just for 6 players and me, it doesn't need grand conducting gestures. I mean, they'll be able to manage plenty of it on their own. But it's going to need a little bit of impulse from me now and then.
Sure.
And so we were talking about this thing that she does so brilliantly, which is that she's able to create a physicality that expresses just enough what the orchestra needs. I mean, orchestras can play by themselves without any problem most of the time. They don't need someone to keep the beat. But there's so much you can show that has nothing to do with keeping the beat. And that's what Barbara has developed, is this way. I mean, sometimes she is actually, doing full on showing everything for the orchestra. It's certainly in very complicated music, but a lot of times the orchestra doesn't need that, and she can show it just by the way she breathes, the way she moves, and also fit that into whatever the piece is, so it becomes a kind of whole expression. Now, it doesn't look like someone who's singing and conducting at the same time necessarily. It's very integrated. So we were talking about that, about how obviously I'll be singing facing out to the audience, but this chamber orchestra will be around me. And there may be times when I just have to show with my body a tempo change or a breath. So yeah, developing something that's somewhere between just body language and conducting, kind of hybrid.
What is the text of the piece that Matt wrote?
Well, the piece is going to be paired with a cantata by Dietrich Buxtehude, this early German Baroque composer, and which is called Mein Herz ist bereit, my heart is ready. And it's a beautiful, joyful cantata about receiving God's gift and giving praise for that. And I wanted to find something that was 20th or 21st century that was also about a kind of spiritual recognition or giving thanks, something that worked with that. And I really love this poet, Robinson Jeffers, who wrote in Carmel, California, Big Sur, California, in the first part of the 20th century. Matt and I went through some poems of his, and we found this text, A Gale in April, which is about a storm coming up the coast, and the intense and passionate beauty and the emotions that brings. And ultimately, like a lot of Jeffers' poems, it's about, at the end, a kind of giving over to nature and being taken in by roots of ancient trees. And in many of Jeffers' poems, nature goes on and on, whereas mankind, our lives, are just a passing phase. And that theme is also in this poem. So I think it's a beautiful piece that he wrote that reflects this brutal storm and then a deep tranquility at the end.
Yeah. Well, that's a perfect segue, because I know that you yourself love to be out in nature and love to be kind of one with the world. Will you get any time away this summer?
Yes, I will. In mid-July, I'm going to go back to the US and spend some time in northern Nevada.
Oh, wow.
Now, a lot of people think of Nevada as desert, but it's the Basin and Range province. So there are actually very high mountain ranges there, and going to be there with two old friends of mine and do some backpacking in some high mountain ranges.
Fantastic. Well, Doug, I'll let you go, but thank you so much for joining us, and particularly for your just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful performance of everything from Mendelssohn straight through to Duke Ellington. I like The Sunrise. It's a great song.
Yeah. Thank you for joining me so beautifully on the piano.
Oh, my pleasure, Rakash.
And learning all that repertoire. And
oh,
I had a really lovely visit to Baltimore, and I hope everyone enjoys the program tonight.
Absolutely. And hopefully we'll invite you back sometime. But wonderful. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.